Research and Training, India. Shri B.N. Narsamurthy, Chancellor, Shri Sathya Sai University for Human Excellence. Our love and gratitude to Sadhguru Shri Madhusudan Sai, a revered founder and the guiding light behind this conference. We request our founder, along with our esteemed guests, to inaugurate this conference by lighting the lamp, symbolizing an auspicious beginning.
Asato ma Sagamaya Tamaso ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
The verse that was chanted during the lamp lighting is a Vedic hymn from the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. This ancient Indian thought is a prayer to the Almighty to lead us from untruth to truth, from darkness to light, and from death to immortality. University boy students of the Vedic Studies program will now render Swadhyaya Prashamsa as part of the invocation.
Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om Shanno Mitrasham Varunaha Shanno Bhavatvaryama Shanna Indro Brihaspatihi Shanno Vishnurukramaha Namo Brahmane Namaste Vayo Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahmasi Tvameva Pratyaksham Brahma Vadishyami Ritam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmamavatu Tadvaktaramavatu Avatu Mam Avatu Vaktaram Om Shanti 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 Ritancha Swadhyaya Pravachanecha Satyancha Swadhyaya Pravachanecha Tapascha Swadhyaya Pravachanecha Damascha Swadhyaya Pravachanecha Shamascha Swadhyaya Pravachanecha Agnayascha Swadhyaya Pravachanecha Agnihotrancha Swadhyaya Pravachanecha Atithayascha Swadhyaya Pravachanecha Manushancha Swadhyaya Pravachanecha Prajacha Swadhyaya Pravachanecha Prajanascha Swadhyaya Pravachanecha Prajatischa Swadhyaya Pravachanecha Satyamiti Satyavacharathitaraha Tapaiti Tapo Nityah Paurusishtihi Swadhyaya Pravachane Eveti Nako Maudgalyaha Tadhitapastadhitapaha Om Shanti 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 हरिः ॐ तत्सत् श्रीसाईश्वरार्पणमस्तु।
The word education is derived from the Latin word educare, which means to extract or bring forth from within. The world today needs a system of education which helps in the manifestation of perfection and goodness that are already latent in man and that which will enable man to experience his highest potential. Therefore, the soul of education, it is said, is education of the soul. The Sri Sathya Sai University for Human Excellence presents the second edition of the Global Education Conference with the theme Educating the Heart. We reconvene after 2 years to develop a roadmap for the future of education systems globally, to strive and bring back the ancient intent and purpose of education, that is to achieve universal welfare, which emphasized on nurturing the heart of a student and not just sharpening the head and skilling the hands. This conference is a convergence of educationists, policymakers, teachers, and various other stakeholders who contribute to the education system in their respective countries to deliberate on the ways to plan, discuss, initiate, and implement a global values-based system of education as the only potent tool to achieve peace and prosperity for mankind. We will now have the inaugural video of this Global Education Conference 2023 on the theme Educating the Heart. Can we have the video, please?
It has been said, education is the manifestation of perfection already in man. With the culture of competition and commercialism taking over today's educational system, educating the heart is truly the only way to nurture that latent perfection. It is a collective societal responsibility to create and nurture a generation of students to be empowered with ethics, values, and a joy of learning. Propelled by economic inequality and insecurity, the sole focus of education today is academic achievement, causing higher student burnout and stress rates. A recent survey by the National Council of Educational Research and Training ascertained that around 80% of school students attribute stress and anxiety to studies, examinations, and results. The Global Education Conference 2023 by the Sri Sathya Sai University for Human Excellence aims to address this matter. With an overarching theme of educating the heart, the 2-day conference will delve into numerous aspects of student well-being, including building student-centric curriculums, implementation of values-based education, mindfulness and contemplative pedagogy, integrating ancient wisdom with modern science, and shattering the stigma around mental health. It is only when students are perceived as wholesome, rounded beings whose hearts must be tended whilst their minds are enriched that a socially responsible society can be created. As the famous Greek philosopher Aristotle once said, educating the mind without educating the heart is no education at all.
We request Revered Chancellor Shri B. N. Narasimhamurthy ji to make the introductory remarks.
I offer my loving pranams at the feet of Sadguru Madhusudan Sai, who is leading the experiment in education which was started by Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba towards its culmination in our present times. Esteemed dignitaries on the stage and off the stage, dear brothers and sisters from all over the globe, and our very beloved students, boys and girls. We have a galaxy of educational thought leaders and luminaries on the stage. And there are many more sitting among the audience. On behalf of all our students, teachers, and administrators in our university and Gurukulam group of educational institutions, which are spread in 27 campuses in our country, I express my deep felt gratitude to all the educators, educationists, and educational thought leaders who have responded to our invitation and come over here. Very rightly, the second convocation of our university is flanked by the Global Education Conference on one side and Leadership Conclave on the other side. The current focus of the university is to create educators, educational leaders. We are focusing on this. Therefore, this is very, very relevant that we start this education festival with this global education conference. The theme of the conference is educating the heart. We all saw on the video Aristotle's statement, educating the head without educating the heart is no education at all. In today's context, I would like to slightly modify it and say, educating the head without educating the heart is a disaster. As we have been seeing in our own times, the sense of meaninglessness in life, alienation, frustration that has engulfed the individual lives, and the discord and conflict in human societies is a testimony to the education that we have given to our children all over the world in the last 1 century. So-called scientific temper, which engulfed humanity, at least the thinking people, this alienated them from the spiritual values. And when there is spiritual bankruptcy in individual lives, definitely moral turbidity in society is inevitable. That is what has happened, we see today. Educating the head is imparting knowledge. Educating the hands is teaching skills. And educating the heart is putting the soul into the personality of the person. As Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba said time and again, the soul of education is the education of the soul. If you are not educated about the soul, it becomes a soulless system of education which can lead humanity to only a very cold, mechanistic world which has happened today. But when we think of educating the heart, spirituality is a must. That is why great educational luminaries of our country, Swami Vivekananda, Mahayogi Aurobindo, Sri Rabindranath Tagore, Mahatma Gandhi, all of them insisted that spirituality should be the foundation of education. For some reason, even in India, that is not happening. That is possible, it is happening all over the world. In fact, I would like to quote E.F. Schumacher, who said, "The problems of education today are the reflections of the problems of our age. The problems are not physical, but metaphysical. Therefore, the solution should also be metaphysical." He also went on to say, if the current anti-metaphysical atmosphere continues in our schools and colleges, education, far from being the greatest resource of mankind, will become an agent of destruction. See, this is what is happening in the world today, this is happening, what is happening in education all over the world. Possibly, people would not like to talk about spirituality in academic circles or in schools and colleges because spirituality is misunderstood as religion, possibly. But as all religions have God, but God has no religion. All religions have spirituality. Spirituality has no religion. This is what we need to understand when you distinguish between spirituality, which can lead man to his highest potential of identifying himself with the whole of the universe. Ekatvam. Once we do that, education becomes ambrosia, education becomes nectar, and therefore spiritual values have to be incorporated into the system of education. And definitely all students should be taught about the fundamental principles of all religions so that we respect all religions while we practice our own religion. If we don't teach spirituality, if we don't teach religion to our students, what happens to the society? We can see what is happening in our world today. So much of fundamentalism, so much of violence, and all this are the results of a soulless system of education. Therefore, this conference, which has 5 sessions, we have 2 sessions today dedicated to school education. First session is student-centric curriculum. The second is imparting values in school education. And tomorrow we have 3 sessions. The first is devoted to imparting values in higher education. Second, values in medical education. And third is mental health education. And we have such wonderful luminaries. We have such wonderful educational leaders among us. And I see many of them in front of me, apart from the galaxy, which is on my right side. And it is our humble request to you all to enlighten us, to enlighten our students, our teachers, our administrators, so that this wonderful experiment, which was started by Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba, and which is being led with great professionalism and idealism. Generally, people think idealism and professionalism do not go together. I would like to submit that Sadhguru Sri Madhusudan Sai is a beautiful synthesis of the two. Therefore, and also in our experiment in our university, which is the vortex of the 27 educational campuses from 6th to 12th class, we have achieved some success. I would like to conclude by just quoting that all these 63 postgraduates who have passed out of our university in the first 2 batches have joined back the mission in our own institutions of selfless service under the leadership and inspiration of Sadhguru Sri Madhusudan Sai. With these words, I conclude. Thank you very much.
Our first speaker this morning is Padma Bhushan awardee Dr. P. Balramji. With a stellar academic journey at various prestigious institutions, including the Indian Institute of Technology Kanpur and the Harvard University, he returned to serve at the Indian Institute of Science in the Molecular Biophysics Unit. He currently holds a chaired professorship at the National Center for Biological Sciences, Bangalore. Dr. Balramji.
Esteemed Sadhguru Sri Madhusudan Sai, all my distinguished colleagues on the dais, and the many other luminaries who are present in the audience. You know, I have been a laboratory scientist all my life, and I have rarely been in a hall like this. It's inspirational to come to an institution which appears to symbolize peace and tranquility. You are about to begin a conference on education, and in the many prefatory remarks which have been made, I heard the phrase that we must educate the heart and not necessarily only the head. As a scientist, I must say that the heart is only a metaphor for the brain. It is the brain which really controls all our actions. And the different parts of the brain function differently to allow us to perform the various tasks which we encounter every day. There are sections of the brain which actually promote empathy, a feeling of what one might call fellow feeling with other members of our own species, the human species. I want to take you back over the last 3 years. At the beginning of the year 2020, just about 3 years ago, the coronavirus pandemic sort of swept through the world. The one thing that we have realized after the coronavirus pandemic is that the virus did not recognize national boundaries. The virus did not recognize political leaderships. The virus, in fact, made no distinctions whatsoever amongst the human populations. It simply spread, and large numbers of people really perished. Where did the virus come from, and what was the virus? I would say that the virus was a force of nature. As a scientist, I've often been asked, what is science? Science is the study of nature. And you're sometimes asked then, by children particularly, what is nature? The only definition of nature which I found satisfying is something written by the German poet von Goethe in the 18th century. What he said was, nature, we are surrounded by her. Nature, we are a part of her. And we cannot separate ourselves from her. So we are also a part of nature. What the subject of biology actually teaches you, it teaches you the unity of nature. It teaches you that human beings are only one biological species on a planet which now houses thousands upon thousands upon thousands of other living organisms. So nature really an understanding of nature allows you to relate to all the life that you see around you. One of the saddest points of modern times is the amount of conflict and strife that exists in the world, even in the first quarter of the 21st century. I want those of you who are young to think about what you must learn. Education is the process of learning something. What is it that you must learn? You must really learn about your place in nature. We have many contentious, angry discussions in India on history. Now you might ask yourself, what history are we talking about? We are talking about the history of the past 5,000 years, the past 10,000 years at most. You might then go back and ask, how long is the history of human beings? The history of human beings is only maybe about 300,000 years, or at the most, if you stretch it, Homo sapiens has been around for 1 million years. How long has the earth been there? Science tells you that the earth has been there for 4.6 billion years. And in this long period, from 4.6 billion years, life on earth has evolved. Life on earth has diversified. And the human beings have entered earth rather late. We have been around on a time scale which is not even the blink of an eyelid on the kind of time scales that scientists talk about today. It is thinking about science which might sometimes enable you to think about grander things. Where did all of this come from? Where did this originate? And it may take you to other more complex questions which have no answer in science. I think the Chancellor made a very important point. He said that people shy away from spirituality because spirituality is confused with religion. I must confess that I am one of those persons who will shy from the word spirituality simply because it is, in common parlance, always confused with religion. Religion, unfortunately, has become one of the most contentious topics in the world, everywhere. And we must try and understand what human origins are, what human development has been. And I think the subject of education must really ask the question, what are we going to teach the children of the future? It's very difficult today to think about the professional techniques of teaching because technology has advanced so far and attention spans of children have shrunk. The result of this is you need an ambience for teaching, an environment where you can teach things which are sometimes difficult to comprehend. The one thing which I will end with is this, that in education, in India particularly, we believe that the ends of education are served if we impart a great deal of information. Now today, information is available on the cell phone and with Google at everybody's fingertips. We must remember that information is not knowledge. That information must be converted into knowledge. But most importantly, we must realize that information and knowledge do not constitute wisdom. You can have a lot of information, you can have a lot of knowledge, but you will not be wise. So what I would like you to think about, those of you who are young and have your lives ahead of you, not like those of us who are old now and are only looking back. What really constitutes wisdom? Eventually, the purpose of education is to impart wisdom. Thank you very much, and I hope you have a wonderful conference.
Thank you, sir, for joining us this morning and sharing with all of us your valuable thoughts. A token of our gratitude to Dr. Balramji. Our next speaker is Dr. Neil Hawkes. Dr. Hawkes is an educator, motivational speaker, broadcaster, writer, and social commentator who founded the charity, the International Values-Based Education Trust. As an international education consultant, Dr. Neil's foundation and its education dimension, Values-Based Education International, are powerful and influential worldwide movements for educational and social change. Dr. Hawkes.
Divine Master, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, students of this wonderful college, I am deeply, deeply honored to be here with you today. It was only last evening that I had a phone call to say, would I join His Divine Master on the stage this morning? I thought, wow, what an honor for me. My wife Jane and I have spent the last 2 days in this wonderful place, and we've been so touched and affected by the love that is contained in each person who we've met here. We've been given a tour of the hospital. I shall never forget going into the hospital and looking through a window and seeing newborn babies who we were told would not be alive had they not been here with the love that surrounds them. One of you wonderful students, and I won't name him because I don't want to embarrass him, took us to the local temple, and we had the most amazing experiences. For me, the highlight, though, wasn't in the 9th century. It was a small child who ran up to me and clutched me and said to me, "What's your name?" And I looked down at him and smiled, and he looked up at me with so much love. And I said, "My name is Neil. What's your name?" And then his mother appeared, and she said, "I'm sorry he did that." And I said, "No, that has made my day, because it's in children that this world is going to survive, and children like your son." And she said, "I'm proud to be Indian. I don't want my child to apologize like so many people do. I want him to be a confident human being on this planet." And I reflected afterwards on this wonderful lady and her son, and I realized that is what we're doing in values-based education. Values-based education ensures that the whole community is enriched through human values. You have your 5 core values. A values-based school develops a vocabulary. The last speaker has his rich vocabulary of science. Mathematicians have their vocabulary of mathematics, and so on. But ethics, the vocabulary of ethics, has become shrunk, small. And so in a values-based school, we enrich the curriculum so that children understand words such as peace, love, empathy, tolerance, altruism. But more important than understanding those words, they put those words into action. And that's what this university is doing, putting the love and those values into action. I had a real honor on the 1st of May this year. I was invited to address the United Nations in Geneva. And my task was to talk to them about the real need on this planet for values-based leadership. I have written papers for the G20 summit leaders, and I've said to them, it's no good us thinking about the 17 sustainable goals of the United Nations if the leadership of this world does not have values really embedded in them. They have to feel that. Now, my own belief is that each one of us can transform the world. We are the change that can transform the world. If in our hearts we have that love, that appreciation for other human beings, for other sentient creatures, for our world, if we have that love in action, we then can transform. So many people are always looking for other people to start the transformation. If only the government would do more. If only the United Nations would be more influential. But it's not. It's each one of us. Each one of us, if we take values into our heart and transmit those values in each interaction we have with another human being, if we do that, we put out into the world the purity of good thoughts, good wishes, so that we transform. So the future leaders, and I think many of them are in this room, the future leaders of this world will lead from values and not from materialism, from selfishness, from what I call limiting values. Those limiting values we've lived with for a long time. Goethe said, "If you take a child as they are, you make them worse. But if you take a child as they could be, you make them capable of becoming what they could be." So, as a teacher, I always see that spark that a child has. Sometimes it's really well hidden in their behavior. But if you see that spark, then you can take that child to be the best version of themselves that they can possibly be. And that's the mission of values-based education, which is in many forms, in many organizations now. There's a growing movement worldwide of folk like you and me who are wanting to see this incredible change. I don't think we have long. It has been said we are 5 minutes to midnight. I said at the United Nations we are about 30 seconds from midnight. Each one of us needs to redouble our efforts in order that this world is transformed. And my grandchildren, your future children, can live in harmony and peace on this planet. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Neil, for your heartfelt words, a token of our appreciation and love to Dr. Neil Hawkes. The next guest speaker this morning is Tanshri Dato Zulkifli Abdul Razak. An educationist and scientist, he was the immediate past president of the International Association of Universities, which is a UNESCO-affiliated organization. He also served as the Vice-Chancellor of the University Science Malaysia. He was awarded the prestigious 2017 Gilbert Medal in recognition of his long-term commitment to a sustainable approach to international higher education. A few words from Tanshri Abdul Razak ji.
Thank you very much, benevolent Sadhguru, distinguished guests, panelists, brothers and sisters, beloved students. Assalamu alaikum, greeting of peace and a very good morning. I am indeed lost for words after listening to the various speeches before me. But indeed, I am very encouraged to be here again because I was part and parcel of the first inaugural global conference that was held in 2019. I came in as a stranger. I didn't know this place, neither do I know the university, but I think I left this place as a friend and part of your family. This is something that I take home with me, because what we have been doing here is something that we have been striving many a times in many parts of the world. Certainly, in my part of the world, we think education with the heart is something that we should have done long time ago, because for a long time, in our tradition, we think the heart is also a seat of intellect. Not just the brain, not just the mind, the heart is also a seat of intellect. But somehow or other, to the evolution of so-called education, particularly after the Industrial Revolution of 1700s, we find that somehow or other, this heart has been taken away. We have reduced education to merely an economic imperative, that all of us now are struggling through education to earn livelihood, but not to make a living or to make life for ourselves. And this is very clearly stated when we see the pandemic comes on board. Most of the education In fact, all of education system in the world, may I say, has failed. We find that our students are not able to cope when they're locked down for a number of days. They find there is no resiliency in their emotions. Their hearts are empty. They cannot cope with the emotional pains and challenges that have gone through for a long time, but yet we call this education. So it's time for today, I hope, that we reevaluate this, that we revisit whether the so-called education today is the real education that we mean for ourselves. And I do really mean that all of us have got a heart. Within the heart, there's a spirit. Within that spirit, there's a soul. Where has it gone in our education? Where do we address this in our education? And it's time for us now to bring it back. In many of our traditional way of teaching, it has been value-based all along until someone came and took it away and say, education is this now. It's no longer about you. It's no longer about your soul. It's no longer about your heart. So we have minimized education to what I call the 3M. We talk about manpower needs, for people to be employed, to be working, to move the economy ahead. We talk about training the mind, innovation, creativity, nothing wrong with that, but it's only for the purposes of the market, at the other M. So this 3M now has to be changed. And in our situation, we have changed it to the 3H. The manpower, not about individuals, we are talking about humanity. The first H is about humanity. Education is about humanity. How do you bring education to the good of all, not just a portion or a particular group of people who are advantaged sometimes to have better education than the rest? The second M, which is the mind, we change it to the heart. It's not just training the mind, but also balancing it with the heart. The mind and the heart needs to work together. These are the two seats of intellect that will bring rationalization and the kind of balance that we need as a microcosm within ourselves before we even try to attempt the macrocosm outside. Unless and until we know how to balance this, then education, from my point of view, will not be education. And the last M, which is a market, we need to bring back to the whole idea of being humble, the humility that allows you to bring education forward to everyone who needs it without exorbitant payment. And this is the part where I'm very, very struck by your university. You can give free education, whereas many parts of the world are suffering because of lack of money, lack of funds, and lack of financial assistance as far as education is concerned. Within our university, we are working on the 3M. With humanity, we need sympathy. Unless you know how to sympathize with other people, you will never see what humanity is all about. Unless you can sympathize with your neighbors, you will not know what humanity is all about. So learning how to sympathize is one of the first things that we want to do. The second M, when we talk about the heart, with Ish, when we talk about the heart, we talk about empathy. How do you empathize with people? If you can't go to that place because you can only sympathize, when you can go to the place and immerse yourself with their problem, then you need to do that. And that is part of education. And we have done that several times in our university when disaster struck. We send in the students, they live with the community, and they come back. And they will say, 3 days in the community is better than 3 years in the university because there's no textbook to refer to. We think for ourselves the kinds of solution that we think we can do. We learn from the community their wisdom that is empty in the university. The university talks about knowledge, very little about wisdom. We learn their wisdom. We learn to connect with them. We build relationship with them. And suddenly we find that we are part and parcel of the bigger community that we do not know before this. And this is a thing that we want to bring to our students. And every student of mine now, in the first year, will have to work with the community and succeed in making the community change the way they want it. And the last one, when we talk about humility, is of course about compassion. Love all serves all. Without compassion, there'll be no love all serves all. In other words, we work unconditionally because they are a human being. They deserve dignity, they deserve justice, they deserve equality. and we need to work with them and to bring them to where they should be, not because of some other imperative that people say, you must be a world-class university, you must be ranked here and there. These are the numbers that you need to achieve. Those, I think, from my point of view, are not education. Those are the things that has reduced education to what it is today. And I'm very, very proud to be associated with you, that I think you are beginning to explore this, and we will work with you to the little that we could to make sure that education is education the way we understand it, to create better human beings, to bring better humanitarian values, and to create a better world for peace for all. So thank you very much, and I congratulate you for your wonderful work, and we are here to learn from you. Assalamu alaikum, greeting of peace.
Thank you very much once again, sir. We extend a token of our gratitude to Tanshri Dato Zulkifli Abdul Razak ji. On behalf of everyone, we pray to Sadhguru to bless us all with his inaugural message.
Om Sahanavavatu, Sahanau Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karvavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu, Mavidvishavahai. Again, a Shanti mantra from our Upanishads, the most ancient Indian texts, and it says, may we be protected together, because you never know when another pandemic may strike. So our education should not stop. So teacher and students should be protected together. Sahano Bhunaktu, may we enjoy this process of learning and teaching together. It's not enough if teacher enjoys and students suffer in the class. Both should enjoy this. Sahano Bhunaktu. Sahaviryam Karvavahai, let us work together, let us work hard. It's not enough if teacher works hard and students relax. Or students work hard but teachers don't teach well. Let us all work hard together to gain this knowledge and enjoy it. And Tejasvinavadhitamastu. Whatever we have learned together, let it remain with us. Let us not forget it, let us not lose it, let us not misuse it, or rather abuse it, but use it for the welfare of all. Let this knowledge remain with us. That is the fourth idea. And the fifth one is Mavidvishavahai. Let us not be the cause of sorrow or hostility to each other. Let us study and educate ourselves in harmony and peace. And these are the 5 principles that we learn from this one Shanti mantra. And that is the essence of education, where we stay healthy and we work together, we learn together, we enjoy that knowledge and use that knowledge for the welfare of all. So on this very special occasion, before Guru Purnima, as you all know, Guru Purnima in India is an important festival. In fact, the most important festival when we go and pay our gratitude to the Guru, the teacher, who teaches us how to lead our lives in a good way, not just be a great person, but be a good person. And this wisdom is given to us by those who have practiced, those who have preached us, so we go and offer our gratitude. So it's only so very appropriate to have this conference just before the Guru Purnima, and we are so grateful to have so many luminaries in their own respective fields adorning the stage, and so many of them sitting off stage who have also been experts in their own, or who are experts in their own fields. I have scientists on my left. Difficult to sit next to a scientist when you are a spiritualist, but I do not find too much of dichotomy, because we believe spirituality is everything, everywhere. And on the other side, I have Dr. Saroj Sharma. She helped us to redesign our education system and move over from very structured and very rigid regimental board system to an open schooling system, which has helped us to do very well in terms of providing right kind of education. So a special mention to her. Dr. Anita Saxena, she led the All India Institute of Medical Sciences till recently. She's on the board of our research too, Sanjeevani Hospitals, and she's also guiding our university. So we are very happy again to have you here. Dr. Neil Hawkes, thank you for your words of wisdom. I told him just now that I love children not for what they are, because very difficult to love for what they right now are. But I love them for what they can be in the future. So that is what he mentioned. Look at the potential that is hiding within them and love them for that. Thank you for your words of wisdom. Dr. Rajput, and he needs no introduction. He's a familiar figure. He's been a part of this family. And at the apex body of NCERT, he has brought many policy changes, including the inclusion of certain values into the education policy like truth, non-violence, love, peace, and right conduct. These were the values taught by Baba, and he was one of the instruments to infuse it into the policy of the nation. So we're very happy and grateful to have you here. Dr. Balram, we will have a session later behind the stage about brain and heart and intelligence. But for now, I'll leave it there. Thank you for coming. You have led one of the premier research institutions in the country, Indian Institute of Sciences, which is one of the best universities, even in the latest rankings that have come. It is one of the topmost universities in the world. So that's under your leadership. So thank you very much for being here and gracing us. Dato, Abdul Razak, you are a part of the family. I met you last time and I see you again. And what you're doing, especially in the Southeastern Asian side of the world, bringing values to education and taking this idea to every school, your efforts have been tremendous and we are very grateful for whatever you're doing for the world. Dr. Raj Nehru, again an eminent educationist and from a very significant institution, skill-building institution, which is what is required. We are killing education, we are not skilling education. That is the problem today. Because all our education remains information and knowledge, never translates into wisdom or applications. That is the problem, and skill-building institutes are the way forward for our next generation to apply all the knowledge and information practically to help the society. So we welcome you too. Of course, our Chancellor, B.N. Narasimhamurthy, who has been in education for over 5 decades. At some point of time, he was my warden. So I truly appreciate the efforts that they put until today. He's never shied away from more responsibilities. And as we grew from a school to a pre-university to a university, he now heads and mentors the university and all the education institutions. And for his 5 decades and more of the wisdom and the sacrifices, we're always grateful to him. And then I have so many of you sitting right here, and we will get to hear and talk to you in the course of this conference. So I look forward to meeting and talking to all of you and listening to you and learning from all of you. As I said, Sahano Bunaktu, let us all enjoy this conference together. Let us learn from each other. There is something to learn from each other. I learn all the time, especially from the children. They are really the teachers of us, because they tell me new things. They tell me how things can be done better from their point of view. So I always keep my one ear close to what's going on in the hostels. And that lets me understand what needs to be done. So having said all this education conference is simply a coming together of all these people to not just think or to ideate, but to actually design a global system of education which transcends all the boundaries like the COVID did, as our professor was saying. It has that education which is applicable, which is useful, which is pertinent to all cultures, all geographies, all nations across the world. That kind of education system which brings forth the goodness that is immanent in all human beings. And that kind of education system which works for the upliftment and welfare of all. And if I may borrow from Ramayana, one of the, again, text from India, when Sri Rama and his 3 brothers are finishing their education at sage Vashishta's ashram, and they are now being brought back to King Dasharatha to be handed over, again on a Guru Purnima. And Vasishtha explains to Dasharatha, the king, parents-teachers meeting. He's explaining what he has done with the students after so many years, how they have fared in their education. And he uses a shloka which comes in Balakanda, and that says, Babhuva bhuyo bhutanam swayambhuriva manyate sarva jnanopasampannaha sarva lokahite rataha sarve samudita gunaihi and sarva lokahite rataha I've already told, which is the 4th one. Sarve samudita gunaihi sarve jnaneshu sampannaha sarve Vedavidaha dhiraha or shuraha, sarvalokahite rataha, teshamapi mahatejaha, ramo satya parakramaha. That is how he tells. So this is the motto of our Gurukulam. That is why I am mentioning it to them. The 4 qualities he mentions about the graduates is 1, Sarvagyane Dishu Sampana. They are adept in all forms of knowledge. In India, there were 64 kinds of kalas and 14 kinds of knowledge. And every student was given some idea of all these things, general education. Then they would become experts and specialists in a certain field. But as a king, Grama and his brothers, all these people who are the rulers, they need to know everything. And that was taught to all of them. Not just some subjects and some sections, but a general knowledge of everything. That was taught to all 4 of them. So this is the first quality he said. Second, he says, Sarve samudita gunahi. All good qualities emanate out of them. Naturally, spontaneously, they're so good from within. They're always kind and compassionate and helpful and empathetic and all these things that we talk about educating the heart. The first part is educating the head, all jnana. Second is gunaihe. Educating the heart also has happened. All of these people are very kind and compassionate and always helping others. And they have all good qualities, good character, altruism, whatever we have talked about. Then he says, they also sarva veda vidaha dhiraha. They are also rooted in our ancient wisdom, Vedas. Not just in the academic knowledge, but also in our spiritual and traditional roots. That is our heritage to which they belong. And they are shuras, they are adept in fighting a war also because they are kshatriyas. So naturally they have to apply all this knowledge ultimately to fight a war and protect their people and administer the kingdom. So they are also application-based, practical knowledge they have learned, not theoretical. And what do they do with all these things? They use it for the welfare of all. Sarvaloka hite rataha. All the educationing of the head, all the education of the heart, and education of the hands, the skills. All that is used for what purpose? Vasishtha says this is being used for the welfare of all. See, that is the crux of education. That is what Vasishtha has taught Sri Rama and all the 3 of them. And of course, he says the topper in the class is Sri Rama. He's the best of the 4. That's what he concludes finally. But what is most important for us is to understand we have the hands, skills, head, all the intelligence, and heart, the seat of compassion and emotions. All these 3 should come together. For what sake? Not to make more money, not to get the next prize, not to become the best or topper in the class, not just to get a lot of name, fame, and wealth, but for the welfare of the entire society. Now, head cannot achieve this. Hands cannot achieve that. Again, these are all metaphors, as our scientist sir has said. These are metaphors for various kinds of faculty that every human being has. When he thinks, processes, analyzes, it's the head. When he acts, works, applies that knowledge practically as skills, that is the hand. But when he feels and emotes, that is the heart. So how he feels while he thinks and does is more important than what he does and what he thinks. While I feel good, I want to do good with compassion, with kindness, with the idea of welfare of all when I think and act, that is education of the heart. So these are all metaphors. Again, as I said, you cannot find the place. Where is your heart? You can point to the biological heart. But that is not the heart we are talking about, right? We are talking about a seat, a faculty which emotes, which is sensitive to others, which is concerned about others. That faculty is the heart part of it. And of course, all this has to be executed through all our organs, the brain, the hands, the eyes, the ears, so all the other sense faculties have to execute whatever the heart feels, the head thinks, and the hands want to do. So we have to teach our children this kind of education. And we are here to learn how can this be an education that can transcend boundaries and be imparted to all children around the world. Science is the same, right? If I want to teach about gravitational force, whether I'm in India teaching a Kannada medium student, or I'm in America teaching an English medium student, or in Malaysia teaching in Bahasa, or teaching in Mandarin, I'm going to teach the same gravitational force. So gravitational force as the scientific idea has transcended all countries, all nationalities, all geographies, all languages. Likewise, this education of heart should transcend boundaries. It may be taught in their language, adapted to their culture and traditions, to their philosophy and heritage, but the idea is one and the same. And that idea is to do good to all. Our education should be useful for all, not just for us. And that education is the education of the heart. So when that becomes the fundamental question that you must ask before you think and execute anything in your life, then we know that your heart is at work. It is functional. and it is guiding your thoughts and actions. So this is the idea of the education of the heart, and this global conference is here to address. Again, we do not want to, mince words and take spirituality, religion. I'll simply leave it at heart. I do not want to bring too much of spirituality. People have their own definitions. I think the most misunderstood term on the planet at this point in time. So we do not want to get it, but I want to say heart. Heart is a feeling that you have behind every thought and every action. So that should be the first thing that you must do. And everybody knew about it. When I was in Fiji and the president of Fiji had come for inaugurating our center over there, he said, they are from Fijian tribes, from many, many centuries they've been living there. They're not educated in the modern parlance. But he told that his father taught him this. Before your head thinks and hands do, check with your heart. This is what his father taught the president of the Fiji. This is the education. And you cannot think that it will just happen like that. Some people think we don't need special time, attention, or efforts. We don't need a curriculum or a pedagogy or an assessment system for educating the heart. No, you're totally wrong. You need equal efforts as you need for educating the child in any subject for that matter. And I want to share this, what we have done in our institution in the last 3-4 years especially. And thanks to many changes, now we have a very balanced system of education where we spend equal, if not more, amount of time, resources, and energy in educating the hand, heart, and the head. What do I mean by that? Our scriptures say that a day of 24 hours is divided into 3 sections of 8 hours based on all the situations around you, how you behave, react to all the response to the stimuli. Or based on that, time has been divided into 3 parts: Sattvic, Rajasic, and Tamasic. That is the, again, terminology as per our Sanskrit literature. Sattvic means a pure time, a peaceful time. Rajasic means a time for action, time for execution. And Tamasic time for rest and relaxation. So these are the 3 times out there. And these times are 8 hours each, as you understand. The 4 hours in the morning from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m. is the Sattvic 4 hours. Again, evening 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. is Sattvic time. So these 8 hours have to be spent in more of internalization of everything that you're learning, contemplation, more peace, more relaxation. This is the time to be spent for this purpose. So we use this time to educate the heart. We study about things, study about great people, study scriptures, study various value systems, and this is the time that we spent morning 4 to 8 and evening 4 to 8. The daytime of morning 8 to 4 is the time of action. That is the time of head. You have to learn your subjects, you have to go to your classes, ask questions, do your exams, and everything else that is needed. So the 8 hours is totally spent in that purpose. And the last 8 hours, that is evening 8 to morning 4, is for rest. That is called tamasic hours, the night time. And that is the time when your body functions start. Once sun goes down, your body is very connected to sun. So all our physiological functions, metabolism, everything starts going down. Our brain, our body needs to relax and rest. That is the time when we should shut the system down and help it relax and rejuvenate. All cells have to regenerate themselves, and we are ready for the next day. Now, this is how Indian education system worked. It's very simple, but very methodical and very scientific in its approach. You can't say this is a spiritual system and there is no logic to it. No, there is. So today, because of NIOS, madam, we are able to do this. Otherwise, our students during Sattvic, Tamasic, Rajasic, they were always sitting in front of the books. Because the exams were there, then CEs were coming, then the quarterly tests were coming, then they had to submit assignment. There was no end to it. And I'm sure Dr. Saxena is smiling in her heart, because in AIMS Delhi, it is the last part, 8 to 4, that is where people are studying most of the times. So the whole thing is actually ruining our culture and our system. And what I'm trying to do is that we want to bring this awareness, a conscious effort across the world, that we must spend time on every aspect of our learning. Educate the head, as I said, learn all the knowledge of the world, then choose your specialty, be an expert. Our system is jack of all trades, master of one. So know everything, but specialize in one. You should be the expert. You should be undisputed, the expert in that field. But nevertheless, have an understanding of everything. That requires time and resources. So unless you discipline it yourself and divide the day in regular parts, you cannot spend time on other things. So now children learn all these things, and National Institute of Open Schooling has helped us to redesign our system. and helped us to give the needed time for educating the heart. Otherwise, it was just a talk, and it was not happening on a daily basis. But today they volunteer, they go to the hospital and do some voluntary service, they go to the villages, do voluntary service. They also, within their hostel, they maintain everything by themselves. These are all the ways of educating the heart. And that is what I am requesting all the leaders and all the thought leaders, visionaries, educationists, philosophers, policymakers to think about. Make our children's life easy, a little more comfortable. Just loading them with so much of information is not going to make them better human beings. We have nothing to go against the modern education system, but then it has not led to a more peaceful world. I'm sure 200,000 years ago, when we were just on the trees or wherever, we were a more peaceful lot than today, with all the advancement and technology in our control. Now we have science been used to create weapons of the mass destruction, biological warfare, and name it. So education of the heart did not happen completely there. We did not use our knowledge for the welfare of all. We are using it for warfare. And that is where my problem comes. If there is peace and harmony in the world, where is the question of us spending so much of our budget on defense, on various other security things, which could have been spent on better things like education, healthcare, social infrastructure, and things like that? We do not have. We spend 8% on defense, and we spend 1.5% on healthcare or 2% on education. And we are a country of human beings, right? We are not machines. We all need this space. We all need this support. So this is where not educating the heart has done a lot of damage to the world today. And that's where we come from, that point of view, that let us teach our next generation to be kind, to be compassionate, to be considerate, to be sensitive and concerned about everybody's welfare and not just their own. $100 trillion global GDP, and 800 million people go to bed hungry every night. Why? Educating the head has happened. They're able to generate resources, create wealth. But are they able to share it with people? No. Are we able to create better societies? No. Happier societies? No. Wealthier societies? Yes. Powerful societies? Yes. Advanced societies? Yes. Equal societies? No. Fair societies? No. Happy societies? No. So what is the use of all the education at the end when people are not happy? That's all I'm trying to advocate for. And my whole idea is that if many people speak in the same voice, the same things over and over again across the world, it will be heard. And that will start bringing about a change in the way we educate our future generations. And we are all stakeholders. We are all part of it. We cannot think that country is educating them in some way. It is not going to affect me. No, tomorrow that problem will be at my doorstep too. So we have to create a consistent, high-quality, values-based education system where people are skilled, they use their knowledge to improve the society, they are very sharp in their intellect, they can research, they can innovate, they can find new solutions to the problems of the world, but more importantly, they feel in their heart that it's all for the welfare of all. And the only reason why they do anything is because it will benefit everybody and not just them. With this idea, if we think of the education system and give the necessary attention, time, resources in a disciplined way, I'm sure much can be done. The world has the largest number of young population today. It is a challenge, but it's also an opportunity. If they all can be taught early and they can be taught the right things, I'm sure all the juvenile crimes, substance abuse, gun violence, name it, all this will disappear, and mental depression and rates of suicides, all this will disappear. We will have happier societies, and that is the education that we want to impart. So I welcome you all. As our scriptures say, Ano Bhadra Krutva Yantu Vishwataha. Let noble thoughts come to us from all sides. An educationist must be open-minded. If you close your mind, you don't learn. Your learning stops. So either you are scientists, policy makers, value educationists, academic educationists, you are anybody in this world, teachers, students, parents, all are stakeholders in this process of educating the society, and we all should be open-minded to learn from each other, take the good, take the best out of every culture, every tradition, every institution, and make a program for the whole world. And I'm not being impractical by saying I want it by tomorrow. No, it will happen. It will take a while, maybe a decade or two. But someday when we effect this change, for whatever the remaining minutes to the midnight that are left, they will be better minutes than what we have spent so far. So with that idea, welcoming once again all the dignitaries off and on the stage and all the participants, our students from various campuses, and many guests from many countries and those who are watching this live, thanks to technology, for connecting with us virtually. To all of them, my greetings and best wishes. And I pray that this conference will lead us all to a global system of education which teaches us to balance our head, heart, and hand, and most importantly, focuses to teach us to feel for everyone before we think and act on an idea. So with that, thank you very much, and I'll see you again a while later.
With this, we conclude the inaugural session. We will have a short break for 10 minutes and will reconvene for the technical session of this morning. Thank you once again.